Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Continuing on our Hisuian speculation for Scarlet and Violet, I want to talk about the Hisuian Goodra today. Now, Hisuian Goodra is a steel dragon type, or dragon steel rather, and that is a great typing defensively. You can see it has 9 resist and is immune to poison because it's a steel type. Only weak to fighting and ground. That's not a lot to be weak to, even though those typings are very common. And while it does have some offense, the offensive stab is not particularly amazing. The typing is much better defensively than offensively, but it is a very good defensive typing. Things get interesting when we go into abilities though, because it keeps the same abilities like Sap Zipper and Gooey, but Hydration is replaced with Overcoat. And Overcoat is very good to have in VGC because things like Among Us use Rage Powder and Spore to basically control opponents. And Overcoat just stops that and says, no, you can't do that. So I think this is a great ability to have, and that's probably what you're going to be running on this unless you really want to go for the Sap Zipper shenanigans. Now, moving into stats, Hisuian Goodra is more defensive than the original. It trades 10 base hit points and 20 base speed and puts that into the defense stat. So the defense stat is actually 100 base, which is a good bit higher than the original Goodra. So the defensive stats are more balanced and the other stats are identical as the original. So it still has a ton of special bulk, and you can really run this a physical attacker or special attacker depending on what you need. Now, moving on to moves, this thing does have a signature move called Shelter, which in PLA it raises defensive stats and gives evasion, which I don't think it's going to stay that way in a VGC format because that just sounds broken. My guess is the evasion bonus is going to be dropped, and it is going to act like Cosmic Power, raising defense and special defense by 1 stage. Which, you know, I think Cosmic Power is a decent move. It's not commonly used in VGC, it just takes forever to set up. But if you're allowed to get it set up, it actually is quite annoying. Now, this thing gets a lot of moves. Because it's a dragon type, you get a lot of the elemental moves like Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. But it also gets some poison moves like Acid Spray and Sludge Bomb. You have several of the punches. Though for stab moves, this does not have Flash Cannon, which is kind of interesting. Your special attack steel type stab is Steel Beam, which is really not a good move to have on this because of all the damage you're going to take from using it. So if you want to run stab steel, you have to run physical in the form of Iron Head or Iron Tail, which Iron Head's just better. But if you do run physical, you get access to Rock Slide, which is just a great move to have in general. And your physical dragon move is Outrage. So for its dragon stab, it's better on special, but for its steel stab, it's better on physical. Kind of strange, but may not actually be an issue, because normal Goodra sometimes didn't even run a stab move. It didn't even run a dragon move. So this thing will probably end up playing the same way, where you just throw an Assault Vest on it, throw Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and maybe like Acid Spray, and just call it a day. And if you want to run a physical set, you run punches with Rock Slide and Iron Head. But if Shelter ends up being a good move, then I could definitely see a leftover set where you just build it really bulky, and the way to get damage is you have Acid Spray to lower special defense, and then have like one of the coverage moves that probably Ice Beam, because Ice Beam is very offensive. Now, at the start of every VGC meta, typically the legendaries are not available to use in the meta. And when they're not, things like pseudo-legendaries become very strong because they have such high base stats. And I think at the start of the meta, if this thing is available in it, it is going to be a very strong Pokemon. You're probably going to see it in a lot of teams. It may not be the top choice in the format, but it is going to be a very competitive choice because it doesn't do a lot wrong. It has a great defensive typing, good abilities to work with, and a lot of coverage. Though even in a meta where there are legendaries like Groudon and Kyogre running around, this is still not bad, and I think you could make it work in those scenarios. But overall, I think this is something you can build a team around if you're looking for a consistent lead. A consistent setup that just works. Hisuian Goodra is going to do that. It is essentially the normal Goodra, but upgraded in almost every category. Even the lower speed stat I think is an improvement because it helps you in your Trick Room matchups, and typically Goodras never run speed anyway. So overall, this is probably the best built Hisuian form for competitive play, because it doesn't do a lot wrong, and it has a lot of the right things. But even something that seems to do almost everything right can still fall behind if the format doesn't support it very well. So we'll have to see what the new gimmick is before we know if this thing is really going to be taking over the meta or not. But I have high confidence that this is going to be popular and good. But hey, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know in the comments.